the idea that black people are not dying from opioid overdoses is a myth. Just take a look at this chart. The rate of black people dying from opioid overdoses held pretty steady until about 2012, and then it shot up there. The rate of black people dying from opioid overdoses is now approaching that of white people, and Congress knows this is a full-blown crisis. And our bipartisan task force is working to fight both the opioid epidemic and the mental health crisis. Joining me now is one of the founders and co-chairs of that task force, Democratic Congresswoman Annie Kuster of New Hampshire. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here tonight. First of all, thank you.
Great to be with you, Zerlina, and thank you so much for this series and for highlighting the mental health issues that are impacting our country right now.
Thank you. I thought it was really important. I know this pandemic has been hard on everyone, and certainly the country has been focused so much on COVID, but this epidemic of mental health issues and drug overdoses seems like something that's happening almost in the background. Lay out for us how bad things have gotten.
Well, absolutely, simultaneously, in fact. And I thought the woman that spoke in Kentucky was so spot on that this COVID epidemic has just exacerbated the mental health issues and addiction issues. And that's why we've expanded. I founded the bipartisan task force in 2014 to address the opioid epidemic. But now we've expanded to mental health and addiction. And as you say, the African-American community, all across the board. I don't have a colleague in the country whose district is not impacted by addiction and this mental health crisis that's just been exacerbated during COVID-19.
And, honestly, mental health and addiction, those two issues are directly linked, right? I mean, many people who have the disease of addiction, the reason why, they're picking up a drink is because of the issues that they want to numb or to forget for just a moment. I mean, they're directly linked. So talk about your state of New Hampshire. New Hampshire has been so hard hit by the opioid epidemic in this pandemic, and as you said, the mental health issues as well. Tell us what you have seen, what you've seen among the people in your state now that you've really intentionally made mental health and addiction a priority, a policy priority.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, you're absolutely right. The science, the medical term is co-occurring illness. And up to 90% of the people incarcerated in this country have co-occurring mental health and substance use issues. It can be really devastating. It can be depression, anxiety. I'm also very involved in the field of sexual assault as a survivor myself. And when I went to the women's prison in New Hampshire, right before COVID actually, and met with the women that are incarcerated in our prison, they literally 100% of the women in our prison are either survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, or abuse in their childhood, 100%. And so that's why we need to tackle all of these issues together, keep people safe from violence, and give them the treatment and the support that they need in their recovery. So mental health treatment hand in hand with their treatment for addiction.
What are the most important things Congress can do policy-wise to help?
Well, first of all, funding. And one thing that's extremely important to think about, access to quality mental health services. And that's why the Affordable Care Act is so important. Many people didn't have health insurance and they couldn't get access to mental health treatment or drug addiction treatment. So access is number one. Affordability is number two. We also have issues around training our mental health professionals. We need many, many more people to go into the field. You talked about our youth are struggling, and we want young people to know this is a field that they can go into and find very meaningful work. And then we need access to long-term recovery. People are familiar with AA and NA, but now we have safe, sober housing for long-term recovery, recognizing this is a chronic illness that could last a lifetime, and you're going to need those supports along the way. And then finally, one of our top priorities is addressing stigma. Talking about our own treatment. In my case, I was both a victim and a witness on January 6th to the insurrection in our capital, and I dealt with trauma for the first time in my life. And I found great assistance through our employee assistance program, and it was very helpful to me, that therapy. And I learned a lot, and this is important for public policy. Telehealth during COVID-19 has been critical. And I was able to get the therapy over the telephone, and it was very, very effective. And I feel much, much better, safer, able to just participate in daily life joyfully, not being fearful, not having nightmares about being attacked. So I think we need to break through the stigma, talk about it, help people get access to the support and the services that they need so that they can thrive and their families can thrive and they can live a wonderful life post-COVID.
I love the plug for therapy. I think teletherapy has been one of the best inventions in the pandemic. Not inventions, but things that people have taken up in the pandemic. I do it every other week.
Yeah, I do think it's the silver lining to the pandemic, to learn how effective it can be. Here in New Hampshire, we do have issues with rural access to broadband, but I was surprised and impressed to learn I did my therapy by telephone, and it was very, very effective. I didn't need to even have the video with my therapist. He had the kindest, most compassionate voice, and it was very, very helpful.
I highly recommend folks try teletherapy. I do therapy on the phone every other week, and it really helps. And don't think that you have to be going through something to do therapy. Even when I'm in a great mood, I do my therapy that day because you never know what the next week's going to be like. So it's always good to be consistent with things. And Congressman Annie Kuster, I'm so grateful to you for being here tonight and for joining us for our mental health special. Thank you so much. Please stay safe.